All right, welcome in everybody. Nice to have you all in the chat. Lively today, good to see you all. Okay, so just a quick question. Kristen had asked if side crow is steady but is really hard to straighten the legs, like the variation that we were doing last time. If that is challenging, well, first of all, it's a challenging pose. My microphone is down here, so this is going to change the volume. Hopefully it's still okay. Check, check, check. Looks like it's okay. If it's hard to straighten the legs, first of all, it's always going to be hard to straighten the legs for a number of reasons. Sorry, choking on my water. So I'm going to have water to stop choking on my water. Hard pose in general, and there's a lot of muscles that are required, but predominantly the biggest challenge is the hip flexors. The hip flexors need to develop strength in order to do that pose properly. So strengthening the hip flexors is a tough thing, but continuing to do arm balance practices and you know, like doing these kind of boat variations that we were doing, and we didn't do this last time. We just did the side crow like this, but you could also work on straightening the legs in this position and really keeping the legs as tight into the chest as possible. That's really what's going to develop the hip flexors. And when I say hip flexors, it's not just at the hip. The hip flexors, one of the hip flexors goes all the way to the knee. That's called rectus femoris, and it's a quadricep. Another hip flexor is at the inner thigh. That's called, I'm blanking at the moment, pectineus. Another hip flexor goes from the inner groin up through the spine. That's called your psoas. Okay, so we have all different hip flexors. Let's get a rolling. Today we are going to continue on a similar path as we did last time. Slightly different perspective. We need to strengthen our abductors, our outer hip muscles, and our obliques today, but not so much. How do I explain this? So the obliques do two things, right? Well, three things. Essentially, they flex the spine this way, they rotate the spine like this, and when the same side, we talked about last time, the obliques, the external obliques to the internal obliques, this diagonal fiber which creates flexion and rotation. But if the external obliques over here and the internal obliques over here, if they fire at the same time, you create what's called lateral flexion, side bending. So side plank, the underside oblique muscles, both the internal and external, are activating to help lift the hips up away from the ground. Okay, that's an example. And today, that same action of, really it's going to be, usually we think of lateral flexion of bringing the ribs towards the pelvis, but for today's posture, we have to bring the pelvis towards the ribs. So we have to learn how to hike the hip up. And that's both the obliques. There'll also be a little bit of QL, which quadratus lumborum is a back muscle that will help us out with that. What else? I suggest having two blocks. You could also use a chair, a low, not like a stool or something. Like a chair might be helpful, but it can't have wheels on it, and you have to be careful because the chair it has to be a stable chair. Okay. So you could use that. If you have two blocks, that's great. I'll show you how to use them towards the end, and one way of making this posture a little more accessible. So I'll just give you the pose that we're working towards so you have an imprint of what's going on. We're going to be moving into Koundenyasana 1, and that's the twisted variation. So we'll do this as a preparation in a little bit. Okay, this is Koundenyasana 1. And the challenge of this is being compact enough to have the thigh here. Of course, I'm not in that arm balance. The thigh and the elbow here have to be compact enough, which is going to be obliques on this side. But you're going to notice that when you're in the actual pose, to lift the back leg up, it's abductors of the back leg. And let's see if you can see, look at my top hip, ready? Okay, you see how the back leg lifted up? It was a result of me hiking my hip up. So that was my obliques in that case, in conjunction with my abductors. Now, if I just use my obliques and my outer hip muscles don't lift the leg up, nothing's gonna happen. So the outer hips, lift the leg up, the obliques pull the hip towards the rib cage, and as you see the whole thing rises up. It makes it easier on you. All right, so I just gave away a number of the exercises, but that's okay because I wanted to see the visualization of where we're going. Let's get started. See if I can give you some other things in a surprise element for you. Please come to child's pose. Sorry, I keep hearing like a truck outside, but it's not actually outside. It's somewhere in the ether in the distance where I cannot see. Okay. Child's pose, knees wide, arms out in front. So the muscles that we're pretty familiar with at this point from crow pose and from Koundenyasana and things like that were the inner thighs. We also work the outer hips as well in those classes, especially on internal rotation. So we're going to work the outer hips today, but let's get started by doing the opposite. A lot of times the intellect, that's the part of our mind that understands the world through opposition. So the intellect can find greater ease or quicker information integration when you offer the opposite. So to begin, squeeze your knees toward each other. And this is going to be the inner thigh muscles, which are not the muscles that we're going to be working with today, really. We'll be working with the outer hips, but as you squeeze your shins inward and you get familiar with this feeling that we've learned so far, we'll know what not to do. So let's just settle in here, activating the inner thighs by squeezing gently the shins and knees toward each other and feeling that sensation. All right, now you can release that. I'm going to do the exact opposite. Okay, so now push your knees out away from one another, and what you'll start to feel is the back of your pelvis broadens, and as you feel that, you'll feel your outer hips hopefully start to activate. So again, press your knees out like you're trying to separate the mat underneath your knees, and hopefully you start to feel your buttock band, your upper buttocks and outer hips start to awaken. These are the muscles we'll be focusing on today, abductor muscles, along with the outer hips. Okay, relax completely. Just take a breath. Start energizing the arms. So reach your arms further out in front. Press your palms down and lift the armpits up. Armpits away from the ground and grip your fingers to the earth. Shift forward slowly to all fours, hands and knees. Fingers grip the ground. Arch the back. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch, look up. Yeah, Tara, it's a challenging pose, so understandable that we would struggle with this one. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch, and look up. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch, look up. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch, look up. Tuck the toes, exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. Take a few breaths in your down dog, move in any way that you'd like. Bend the knees, come to all fours, hands and knees. Let's come up onto the fingertips. Keep the chest lifted and form an anterior tilt of the pelvis. So arch the low back. What we'll try to do is start to awaken the outer hip muscles, and simultaneously we'll be working the obliques as well through rotation. But sag your hip to the left for a second and then sag your hips to the right. And I'd like you to feel that. Go back and forth. Feel what the transfer of weight sagging the hips out to the side. Okay, that sagging is a relaxing of the outer hip muscles. Today, we're going to try to do the opposite of relaxing the outer hips. So instead of sagging, you're going to keep the hips squeezed in. Okay, so let's try this. Take your left foot out to the left, like a gate pose. Okay, and instead of sagging to the right, lean to the left. Okay, so you can lean into your left foot. Now, keep leaning to the left and slowly bend your left knee. Now, as you do that, you're gonna feel that you're gonna start to sag to the right. Lean to the left and lift your left leg up. Now, notice how my left knee is closer to my chest. It's not moving back behind here. So those of you that struggled with the straightening the legs last time, it's working on the hip flexion when your legs are out to the side. So squeeze the knee towards the chest. That's your hip flexors that do that, okay? And then you can release. Also, your obliques will engage when you start to squeeze the knee closer to the chest. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Gate pose out to the side. I have a little limited space over here. Okay, lean towards the right. And you see, when I lean to the left, my left hip sticks out. When I lean to the right, it's easy here to do so because I have my right foot on the ground. And so it doesn't take as much effort in the outer left hip. But when I start to pull the right foot back and bend the knee, then the left hip wants to sag out. I want to squeeze it to the right. Okay, keeping it to the right. Now, take your right knee back behind you just to feel like what normally would happen for most people, and then squeeze it tight into the chest while keeping it lifted, okay? Okay, and then release. That's also a really good preparation for Koundenyasana 1, which we aren't doing today. Okay, but really focusing on the outer hips here helps a lot. When you understand the abductor muscles in conjunction with the core, we're gonna be able to do this pose a little bit easier. Okay, walk your hips back, come to Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. Let's take right leg to the sky on the inhale. Step right foot forward. Come up on your fingertips. Let's take a breath. Just connect to our body, press the feet down and pull them toward each other. Lift in the midsection, get more light. Let's do 2 more breaths. One last breath, lengthen through the top of the skull. Exhale to down dog. Left leg to the sky, inhale. And step forward. High up on the fingertips, we take a breath. Draw the feet toward each other, pulling the legs in and up, finding your midsection, your core. Breathing into the back. With the upper back full, lengthen through the top of the head, get lighter in the fingers. Try not to collapse your chest on your thighs. So front knee a little bit further forward, but still press left sit bone down into the heel. One more breath. Down dog. Right leg to the sky. Inhale. Step forward. Let's take a breath, get strong in the legs. Inhale. Twist on the exhale, turn the belly, chest. Inhale, unwind. Exhale, turn the belly. Chest, shoulder. Inhale. One more time, exhale. Inhale. Down dog, exhale. Left leg to the sky. Step. Let's take a breath in, get strong. Again, exhale, belly, chest, shoulder. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale. Down dog. Forward to plank. Lower down all the way onto the ground. Okay, roll onto your right side. Let's connect to the outer hip muscles for a moment. Bend your knees. With your knees bent, take your left leg up like this. And you'll feel like with your right rib cage sagging down, your left waistline will be kind of shortened. You're going to take your left leg up like so, okay? And what you should feel here is your outer hip muscles called the abductors activate. Bring it down slowly and then back up. Very limited range of motion probably in this position. This is just to feel, and I recommend taking your hand to your outer hip, outer pelvis here where your muscles are activating. Now a lot of you are probably just opening your knee like this. Make sure the foot, can you see that? See how my foot is as high, if not higher than my knee here? Okay, so that's really gonna target the abductors. Okay, and let's do the other side. So I'm really leading with that foot, you can see it. Trying to feel these outer hip muscles activating, the abductor muscles. We'll do one more. All right, come over. Let's warm up the back muscles. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, soften. Inhale, heart and feet. Exhale, soften. Inhale, heart, hands and feet. Exhale, release. All fours. Tuck toes, exhale, down dog. Let's take right leg to the sky. Step forward. Pivot the back heel down. And let's keep your right arm outside of your right knee. And just find our outer hip muscles, our abductors in the right leg. So first, move your hips back a little bit. So wag your tail towards the side wall like I have here. So to my right in this case. And while doing so, your right knee will probably start to come inward, okay? You're gonna keep your hips back, but using the strength of your outer hips on the right side, press your knee out into your arm. Now, as you do that, a little tuck of the tailbone will give you more space. So press your right knee out into your arm, left hip back, and as you press your right knee out into your arm, tuck your tail. Okay, let's take a breath in. As you exhale, twist left belly and chest to the sky. Inhale, unwind. Right knee presses out into the arm. Tuck the tail a little bit. Exhale, twist. Again. Exhale, twist. And release. Exhale, down dog. Left leg to the sky. Exhale, step. Back heel comes down. And here we set up. So from this side, you'll be able to see a little bit easier. The tailbone wags. See how this is my right hip over here, my back hip is gonna wag towards you. You see that? Okay, and as a result, when I do that, my left knee will start to come inward, okay? Because the pelvis and the legs are attached. So wherever the pelvis goes, the leg is gonna wanna go with it. So as the pelvis rotates, the left knee starts to wing in, and what you're gonna wanna do, what I'd like you to do, is press your left knee out. And you see how my hips wanna go with my left knee now? You see how they just wanna, so I wanna create a way to strengthen and increase range of motion. So to strengthen, I keep my hips back and I press my left knee at the same time. Now to do that, I find that it's easier to scoop the tailbone a little bit, and that gives me a little more space. So I keep my hips back and press the left knee out into the arm with a little tuck of the tailbone. Let's take a breath. As you exhale, turn the belly, chest, shoulder. Don't lose the hips, but inhale, unwind. Exhale, turn the belly, chest. The left knee is still pressing out into the arm. Inhale. Exhale. Well done. Inhale. Step to down dog. Inhale, forward plank pose. Lower chaturanga. Let's warm up the back again. Inhale, same thing. Heart lifts. Exhale, release. Inhale, heart and feet. Exhale. Heart, hands and feet. Exhale. Come to all fours, hands and knees. I want to do a little wrist strengthener. It is important today, but as we move forward, it gets even more important for our arm balances. So get into your fingers by digging your fingers into the ground like we did, I think it was day one, where I had you just kind of check your fingers. Now you don't have to go too aggressive with the opposite hand. Just make sure it calls out any weaknesses and you just really focus in on those weak points, okay? You can strengthen your body by focusing in on any weak points. Now, I'd like you to do hand push-ups. So elbows straight and push into the metacarpals of your hands. Press down and the heel of the hand rises up. Then slowly lower the heel of the hand down. Push down and heel of the hand rises up. Slowly lower the heel down. Push down, heel of the hand rises up. Slower the heel of the hand goes down. Slower, slower, slowly lower is what I'm trying to say. Do a few times. Slowly lower, slower. One more time. I guess slower captures both. All right, and relax. Give yourself a moment. Stretch the back of the wrists. All right, and let's just stand up, come to the top of your yoga mat. Okay, at the top of your yoga mat, Tadasana, I'd like us to work a little bit on just hip hikes, okay? So take your, you know what, actually, if you've got a block, this is a great time to use it. Place a block underneath your right foot. You don't need it, but it's great if you have one, okay? You can also stand on a book or something like that. Something I learned from my teacher, Jill Miller. She taught this many years ago when I was in one of her trainings. If you stand on a block and you let your left hip come on, like your right hip sag all the way out to the right, then your left foot can go on the ground. And you'll notice that my knees are both straight here, okay? I'm gonna change the camera angle so it's straight at you. I think this is better. Okay, so most people, when they place a foot on a block, they would bend the knee. That's a normal action. But if you straighten the knee and still get the left foot onto the ground, then what happens is you have to sag your hip out to the side. Now that's a relaxing of these outer hip muscles. For some of you, that's gonna be really easy. For others of you that have stronger or tighter hip muscles, that might be really hard to do, okay? And you get this funky shape, or you might be off like this. But if you're trying to keep your torso straight, then you're in a big C shape with your spine, okay? Now, if you squeeze this hip in, then automatically, you see how the left heel lifted up? Okay, squeeze it in and then flex your foot. And even to accentuate this squeeze in, hike your left hip up. So now you use your left obliques and right outer hip muscles, abductors, obliques. Slowly lower it down. Now you're gonna keep the foot flexed the whole time. You can tap the heel to the ground and then again, hike hip up, squeeze in. Hip sags, relax. Hip squeezes in, abductors, outer hips, obliques. We relax the outer hips and the obliques, and then we activate the outer hips and the obliques, okay? And release. So we're learning two things on opposite sides of the body. In the next pose, we're gonna be, in the final pose, Koundenyasana 2, we'll be doing the same side of the body, but this is just a great tool to kind of feel these two different muscle groups. Actually, what's kind of fascinating about that pose is you have to have those muscles active on both sides of the body, the outer hips on both sides of the body and the obliques on both sides of the body. I guess that's why it's even more challenging, is because it forces you to co-activate opposing sides of the body. I just realized that, which is quite fascinating now to think about, because the leg that's on the arm has to activate the abductors. And in order to get the leg close enough and in tight to your arms, it's your obliques. Then the opposite side, obliques and outer hips have to engage to lift the leg up. Wow, fascinating. Okay, so lower the right foot and hip go down, okay? While the left hip sags out, so abductors are relaxed. Now squeeze the outer hips in and hike the right hip so your outer obliques activate, sorry. Now lower the right foot, abductors relax. Squeeze the outer hip in, obliques engage. Abductors, obliques. Obliques relax. Abductors relax. Ooh. Outer hips engage. Obliques engage, hike the hip up. And we'll just keep going, a few more. Sag and squeeze. Sag and squeeze. Try to do it slowly too, because when you're in the arm balance, you don't necessarily have the benefit of quick activity of the muscle, like, you know, strong, forceful. It doesn't work. You have to be able to slow squeeze and activate through this balance posture, right? When you activate muscles in an arm balance, they have to be slow and controlled and steady. Otherwise, you throw yourself out of the pose. You know, you lose the balance. Okay. One thing I didn't mention that I should have, because I just forgot, a lot of people do this when they're in this pose. Their hip opens up like this. And as a result, you'll work the buttock muscles instead of the outer hip muscles if your pelvis is rotating. You have to keep the pelvis straight forward. And if you want to accentuate things a little bit more, you can turn your pelvis inward and do this. Okay. All right, moving on. Step to the top of your mat. Tadasana. Full breath in and out. Inhale, reach to the sun, Urdhva Hastasana. To the earth, bow, Uttanasana. Halfway lift, inhale. Left foot back. High lunge, rise, inhale. Open warrior 2. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, hands to the ground. Inhale to plank. Exhale, lower chaturanga. Slide the hands wide. Inhale, lift the front body. Soften the chest, relax it. Inhale, pull the heart forward and up. Exhale, release. All fours, hands and knees. Tuck the toes, exhale, down dog. Let's take a full breath in and out. Right leg to the sky. Exhale, step right foot forward. High lunge, rise up. Take your palms out in front like you're holding a big ball. Tip your body forward. Fingers in line with the heart. Take a breath in. Without side bending at all, just rotate your spine. Exhale. Make sure your hands don't move like this. Just keep them right in front of your heart. Inhale. Left hip stays open, but turn the chest to the right. So keep the left hip lifted. Inhale. Left hip stays lifted. Exhale, turn the belly to the right. Left hip stays lifted. One more breath. Exhale. Inhale, rise. High lunge. Exhale, hands to the ground. Straighten through the front leg. Inhale. Tailbone straight back. Exhale, bow. Inhale here. Exhale. Add a little movement here. Inhale, bend the front knee. As you exhale, straighten the leg and twist right hand to the sky. Inhale, bend the knee, release the right hand. Exhale, straighten the leg and twist. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Inhale, bend the knee, touch the ground, step forward. Exhale, bow forward. To the sun, rise. To the heart. Inhale, reach up. To the earth, bow. Half lift. Step right foot back. High lunge, just movement here. Open warrior two. Reverse. Exhale, hands to the ground. Plank pose. Chaturanga. Slide the hands and feet. Soften. Lift the abdomen up, back of the neck up, and release. All fours. Exhale, down dog. All right, let's hang here for a full breath in. And out. Left leg to the sky. Step forward. Inhale, rise, high lunge. Hands in front, fingertips. Pitch the body forward on an angle. Lift the hips up, the same height, so not this, kind of see that that's a broken angle at the back leg. Hips up, ribs in, hold. Let's take a breath in. Don't close the right hip, keep it open as you exhale, turn the belly and the chest. Right hip stays open. Exhale, turn the belly. Right hip stays open. Exhale, turn. Right hip. One more. Rise. Exhale, hands to ground. Straighten through the front leg, inhale. Tailbone straight back, exhale and bow. Let's hold for one breath. Inhale, bend the front knee. And as you exhale, straighten and twist. Inhale, bend and touch. Exhale, straighten, twist. Inhale. Straighten, twist. Inhale, bend, step forward. Now pause in your Ardha Uttanasana, exhale. Let's lift the toes up so that the ankles are more stable. So keeping the toes lifted and look at your ankles. Try to squeeze your outer ankles in a little bit. See how this is out, this is in. Keep your outer ankles in, okay? And soften these for a moment, lift the chest. Now push the backs of your heels out till you feel your outer hip muscles awaken. Okay, with your outer hips awakened, then start to lift your sit bones up to straighten the legs. Okay, so lift your buttocks up. The knees are soft, so I'm not working hard to straighten the legs at the knee joint, so my quads are actually relaxed. I'm using my back muscles to pull my buttocks up. You can activate the quads, but not so much to, jam the knee back, I don't suggest. You can just firm up the quads here. In fact, think about pulling your quadriceps up into your hip, and maybe you feel your rectus femoris, one of the hip flexors, start to pull your pelvis more into anterior tilt. Okay, let's take a full breath in. Keep the backs of the legs pushing apart so your outer hips are awakened, and bend the elbows to bow. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, bow. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, bow. Hands to the hips, arch the back, rise. All right. Take your left knee up towards your chest like we did last class. Press your left knee up and across towards your right shoulder. Okay, that's going to train your hip flexors and adductors to get into the position. If we think about it, Koundenyasana 2 requires that our hip is in deep hip flexion, the front leg, okay? So you're gonna keep your hand on your knee, except today, twist your body and now start to straighten while keeping the leg pressing up to the shoulder and bend. Keep pressing the knee. Oh, 2 more of these lovely ones. Ideally, the bottom knee is straight for this exercise because that's what it is in Koundenyasana. And release. Should feel that in the hip flexors quite nicely. Switch sides. Press the knee up into the hand. The hand is pushing down, so it provides resistance. And gravity is probably enough for you to work this out, but we're adding a little extra, so it is hard, okay? Let's stay lifted, a little twist. 5 rounds slowly, inhale. Keep the knee high. All right, hallelujah. Woo, yes. Let's do another little round of movement. Inhale to chair pose. Exhale, bow. Half lift. Left foot back, exhale. Inhale, rise, high lunge. Warrior 2. Reverse. Exhale, hands to the ground. Plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Slide the hands wide. Inhale, lift. Soften. Back of the neck up through the sky. Exhale, release. All fours. Tuck toes, exhale, down dog. One full breath in. Full breath out. Grip your fingers into the ground. Lift the heels, look forward. When you empty the breath, hop or step to the front of the mat. Half lift, inhale. Exhale and bow. Chair pose, Koundenyasana. Exhale, bow. Halfway lift, inhale. Second side, right foot back. High lunge, inhale. Open warrior two. Reverse. Hands to the ground. Plank. Cobra. Soften. Stretch the belly. Relax. All fours. Now let's actually take a moment here while we're here. Come to the right forearm and onto your right outer hip. Hopefully I don't break the microphone here. Okay, so right forearm, outer hip. I'm going to suggest, let's bend the knees, okay, and flex the feet. Step one is just activating the obliques. Let me see which camera angle you're at. Okay, so step one is activating the underside obliques. So you squeeze your right hip and right rib cage toward each other. So you move them toward each other. Now you press your right knee down and your whole body will lift up. I'd like you to take your left hand and feel your right obliques, your side waistline muscles. Okay, squeeze them, squeeze the rib cage and hips toward each other until you feel them really activate. Now lift your left leg up. So that should now be your abductors on both hips. Okay, then slowly lower down. Let's do the other side. Okay, so we have this bent knee position. Right now the left waistline is soft, right? It's relaxed. And the obliques on that side are relaxed. The outer hips are also relaxed. So now squeeze your right ribs here and left ribs here and left hip together until you feel your whole side waistline shortens on the left side. And then you have to press your left knee down into the ground to follow up with that. Okay, so that the whole hip region lifts up. Now take your right knee up off the ground, off of the other knee, and see if you can get nice strong activation of the two outer hip muscles here. The underside and the top side really activating, while the obliques squeeze your left ribs and your left hip toward each other. Okay, then release. Okay, good start. Of course, we could do those over and over again. Let's continue on though. I think you get the point. Inhale, lift the front body. Soften. Stretch the belly. Stretch the back of the neck. And release. All fours, hands and knees. Down dog. Full breath in. And out. Lift the heels up, look forward. Empty the breath, hop or step. Half lift, inhale. Exhale and bow. Hands to the hips, rise to stand. Okay. All right, time to do the standing arm balance essentially. So take your left knee up. And using the twist that we worked on the other day of flexion and rotation, so that's your oblique muscles, you're going to try to keep your left knee up and bring your right elbow to the outer left knee. And then you can place your hands on, like you're miming, on an imaginary ground or wall. Now from this position, try to straighten the left leg. This is Koundenyasana. Woo. Okay. I imagine if I'm struggling, you're probably struggling too. Just my guess. Let's try the other side. Some of you might be easier than others, of course. Right knee comes up. We rotate at the spine and use the obliques to get down now. We pair the right knee and outer left elbow together. Outer right knee and left elbow. One thing I am doing is pressing my right knee into my left elbow, my left knee into my right knee, my left elbow into my right knee. Pushing them into each other, a better way of saying it, and then try to straighten. I'm losing a little bit of that, so here we go. Ooh, yes. That's some tough stuff. Notice which side was more challenging for you. For me, the right leg up was more challenging, which was kind of confusing because usually my right leg is stronger and the hamstrings on my right side are more flexible. So I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit. So some blind spot for me. All right, let's do the boat variation. A lot of you had fun with this last time. You made comments about how fun it was. So we'll do it again. But I actually find this one even more fun. Defining our new definitions of fun. So we come into our Navasana boat pose with bent knees. And we have to get the arm balance. So lift your left hip up off the ground and take your right elbow to left knee. Okay, mime with your hands. Now straighten both legs, but scissoring them as you go. Trying to keep on your outer right hip the best you can. Do a little more abdominal crunch. Left thigh closer to your chest. Chest closer to the thigh. Bring it back, slow. Take a break. There's plenty of ways of cheating that, so if it's easy for you, it's probably, there's one or more things that are happening to cheat. But the way to get out of cheating for yourself is to try to compact the pose as much as possible, okay? So, other side. Outer left buttocks. So instead of being on the base of the pelvis, outer left buttock cheek, okay? Now, get into your arm balance position. Left elbow, left knee, keep your feet up. Compact your core as much as possible. And then straighten. Ooh, right leg high, left leg low. Compact your core, keep sitting up as tall as you can. All right, come back and release. I'd love for you to tell me in the chat if that was easy or challenging for you. I'd love to know where we're at with that, because that's more or less the strength required for the peak pose. Strength required is different, of course, than balance and all that other stuff. So just let me know. And then we'll move forward and we'll do the arm balance on our back, okay? So the arm balance on the back is the same way. What we just did, compact the core as much as you possibly can. And I'll check the comments after to see if that was challenging or fairly easy for you. All right, so to do this on the back, straighten your right leg up to the sky and your left leg hovers like just a few inches off the ground. Most people do it too high. Try to keep it low to really mimic the arm balance. Roll a little into your left hip and then do a sit up and try to get your left elbow and your right knee or right outer thigh to connect. Do a sit up and now lower your left leg a little bit more while raising your left chest towards the sky more. Okay, and release. Holy cows. Oh, press the head into the ground. Hitting some of my weak points, that's for sure. Am I the only one? Shall we do the other side? Isn't it fun? I think it's fun to find the weaknesses in my body, to like feel them out and just like give a little laugh at like, wow, that's fun. Some of you are probably like, you're a Looney Tunes, dude. I am a Looney Tunes. Take your left leg up to the sky, right leg reaches out. Here we go. Sit up. Oh no, sorry. Roll to your right hip a little bit. Sit up, use your abdominals, and take the right elbow outside the left thigh. Doing a sit up, try not to use your left shoulder at all. So my left shoulder is not even on the ground really. Try to do a sit up and compact as much as you can. Now you try to lower the right leg to the best of your ability while keeping the left leg close to your chest as possible. Oh, good God. Oh, that was even harder on that side. Okay. Oh, the body is magnificent. Coming out. Maybe some of you left some comments. Okay, challenging. Lovely, not easy. Challenging. Not easy. Harder to straighten the top leg. Not that easy. Challenging. Right side harder, but good to get my head around the pose. I felt the easy way first until you mentioned to make it hard. Then that made it hard. Good, good. Impossible to straighten the upper leg. All right, cool, cool, cool. All right, so I'm trying to think of the best way I could think of to mimic a little bit of what's going on. Yeah, okay, let's try this. Let's come to all fours, hands and knees. Take your right knee towards the left side, okay? So right knee on the left side, and take the left leg up behind you, okay? So I'll say that again just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Maybe give you another camera angle too. So if I'm on all fours here, I'm gonna take my right knee towards the left side. Take my left leg back behind me. Now when I do this, okay, you're gonna see that of course to keep the left leg up, there's a certain amount of abduction in the outer left hip that needs to happen, outer hip strength. If I could take this back a little bit and then lift it up, now you see how my left waistline just shortened, my left outer rib cage is shortened? Okay, that's all good, but I also have to pull my front rib cage in a little bit while doing that. So keep the left leg high and lift this left leg high, lift your left hip. Okay, and release. I'm gonna switch that up. Take your left knee across. Yeah, I'm just seeing, see how I'm sagging to the right, so we're gonna shift the chest more to the left to be more like the arm balance. Now take the right leg up. Probably good for me to switch the angle. So keep your weight in your left hand while trying to hike your right hip towards your right waistline and right leg up. Now round the back a little bit. I'd love to have your weak spots instead of mine. Okay, and release. The elbows, I'm not sure, Jennifer, I'm not sure if you're on this drill that I'm on all fours. If you're on all fours, I'm keeping the elbows straight. But in every other drill, I've bent the elbows. Great if you can do it with bent elbows on all fours as well. I think that's a little bit strenuous. But for all the preparation so far, the elbows have been bent and forearms parallel to each other. Okay. Whew. I'm working up a sweat here. Okay, so I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can give you that can really help to feel this. I think we're pretty much on track and we've done it all. So let me show you. I'll give some time to play around with the peak pose, okay? Where are we? We're gonna switch back so I know who I'm looking at. All right, so there's a couple things. With the peak posture, momentum is your friend, but in terms of getting into the shape, but momentum is not your friend in terms of balance. So that sucks. Getting into the shape is easy if you can do it with momentum, but holding the arm balance is hard to get into without momentum. So I suggest momentum to get into the shape, but then slowly move into the balance. I'll show what that looks like. I think using blocks on this can give a little bit of insight of how to do this pose better, but placement of the blocks is a bit of the challenge. So I think crisscross, let me just give me a moment. It's been a while since I've done this. Yeah, so if I do, yes, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. You would place your 2 blocks wide, and this is where I said you could use a chair as well. But if you have 2 blocks, great. And I think on the widest surface is best for safety so these don't topple. Okay, so what I would do is I would take a down dog and I'd place this foot onto the block wide. Take my right leg up. You see I'm leaning to my left side now. But notice how wide my hands are, by the way. Fingers are off the mat, fingers are gripping the ground. It's gonna make my pose a lot easier. And then I'm gonna bring my knee with momentum to my outer left arm. You see how I bent the left elbow on my way? Okay, I'm gonna show that again. My left elbow is gonna bend and point straight back. You see that? Now I have like a little shelf. Now, that's my momentum. Now I go slow, 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 and extend the leg. And I can just hold here, or I can employ the outer hip muscles and the obliques. The only danger zone is that the blocks are still back there, so don't come tumbling down onto them. That's why I brought my foot forward, of course. Just do your best to not hit them. It's probably not going to be the end of the world if you do. But the blocks there, what it does is it gives you an advantage because then you don't have to lift your foot from the ground up. You're already lifted a little bit higher. These are kind of 3/4 blocks. They're not full width blocks. So full width blocks would make it even easier, okay? I'm seeing I have 2 boxes over there. You could also use a yoga wheel. If you've got one of those around, you can use a yoga wheel. The rolling of it may make it easier or harder depending, because you can drag it forward. Okay, so shall I show it again, I suppose? Alberto has a question. This and last class is super challenging, but discovering all kinds of new muscles, which is fun. Awesome, happy to hear that, Alberto. Tara, definitely easier when I'm on my back. Cool, good to know. I think my weakness is my hip flexors. Most of us have really weak hip flexors. Underused and usually shortened hip flexors, and because we sit, but we don't actually hold ourselves in a seated position. The chair does that. Some problems with my neck when I straighten the leg. Twisted boat pose weakens my neck. Weakness of my neck. Yeah, using too much of these front muscles instead of your abdominals, like a lot of people try to do the pose from their neck first, then their abs. I noticed this in my own patterning. When I get out of bed, the first thing that moves is my head, and then my abdominals contract. And I guess that's probably proper, but it's too much of a lagging behind. Like I'm using my head, my neck muscles too much over my abdominals. So what I've been practicing, like when I get out of bed, is I relax my neck, I contract my abs just enough that I then follow with the head and the head follows. So I create a new pattern so that my neck isn't leading the way all the time. Most of us have a similar pattern like that, okay, because our eyes are attached to our head. So when we think move, we think from the closest thing to what tells us where we are in space, and that's usually the head in this case. So neck is overused. Okay, so let's get back to this for a second. Is that right elbow free? Pressing up against the right rib cage. It is absolutely free. Just like, so Jennifer, you weren't in the last class, and this is a good question to be asking. We did this also in the last class. So the elbow, if you just take your hands like this, everybody, your elbows should be resting comfortable, not pinching into your sides, but wherever they rest comfortable. So mine rests here, okay, when I'm just relaxed in Tadasana. Okay, some of you will be a little bit closer, but it's not squeezing it in, it's just resting them comfortable. And then your hands out in front. Now, the wider you go, the more access to your pectorals, the more access to your serratus. The more narrow, the more triceps you'll be using, okay? Triceps are always gonna be used. Also, pec minor will be used if you go too narrow. So if you stay a little bit wider, you can squeeze in, that's great. Squeeze in, but don't move in. You follow the difference? Squeezing in is an isometric activation of these muscles that hug in, whereas moving in is changing the alignment. I don't want you to change the alignment. Arms resting comfortable outside, okay? This pose, even a little bit wider is my suggestion because it allows for more rotation of the chest. The more narrow you see you can't move your chest as much, but if you're wider, you can move your chest and rotate. And any twist, it's usually easier with wider hands, okay? I find the momentum part really hard as I don't get the right part of my thigh to my elbow with just my core. Okay, so there are other ways to do it. You know, like you can go from this position here. I would turn the legs in. So you see, instead of going like this, you see how my hips go up? And then you can walk the foot out to the side like this, okay? Then you can lift the leg and work here, eventually slowly extending the leg back. So that's without momentum, and some of you might find that easier. Hugging in, lift, correct. Hugging in creates lift, yes. Anytime two things go inward toward each other, then it has to go upward or downward, but the ground's below us, so we can't go down. So the only free way is up. Okay. So I'm gonna show both ways just as I did again. I'll do the other side, one with momentum and one where you don't have momentum. And if momentum helps you, awesome. The momentum for me, it makes it easier to get the leg on the arm. I'm gonna show a whole different angle, so sorry about the alignment, it's not gonna work out for this one. We're gonna go to this angle here. Just like this, okay? So you can see really at the front. Okay, for me, the momentum gets the leg because you don't need to be as strong to get the knee to the arm because your momentum takes you there and your muscle does not. Okay, but of course the accuracy of that is way harder. Then extend, you can just hold here, or you have to lean forward, of course, grip the ground and lift the right hip up. Okay, that's momentum. And some of you might find that easier, and some of you might be like, no way, that's way harder. And of course, that's going to be dependent upon your patterns and what you're used to and such. So without momentum, the option is something like this. Apologize, my mat's not set up well for this. I'm going to just be off of it, but hands are wide. And here's the mistake that most people make, is they sag this hip down, which loses all power of this arm. Okay, you have to lift your hips up, up, up. See how you can walk the feet this way? Now, you can walk this out to the side. This is a great preparation. Then you can walk this foot back, okay? And just holding this position here, I might have to show you another angle, might be good enough. Then you lean forward, grip the ground, and maybe hiking the right hip up. Okay, leaning forward into your fingers and gripping the ground, getting those forearm muscles fully ignited is what's gonna help lift the back leg up. It's just like crow pose. You can't lift your feet up off the ground if you haven't leaned forward yet. There's no muscle in the body that's gonna take your feet up off the ground if your weight is in your feet. Same thing with this pose. No matter how strong your obliques or your outer hips are here, they're not gonna come up off the ground until you've leaned into your fingers. And it's, you know, it's fairly significant because you got a long leg back there behind you that weighs a lot. So you have to counterbalance that weight forward, okay? Could you do this with the front knee bent? Absolutely. So if, you know, hamstring flexibility is a challenge, then keep the front knee bent. That might be easier for some of you. Let me see what that would feel like for me. I don't usually do that, but I have taught it before, so let me see. Hands wide, fingers turned out for this pose helps to, when you bend the elbows, if your hands are turned out, the elbow will point straight back. It'll be easier on you. Okay, so. Okay, it's totally possible. I find it actually a little bit maybe more challenging in some respects. Easier on the flexibility of the hamstrings, but harder because you have to perhaps use more strength of your obliques. The front leg straightening kind of drags the back leg forward. It pulls your weight forward more. So on that respect, it's easier. Let me just see another angle perhaps. Yeah, I'll show you from this angle. So let's do without momentum again. No momentum. Just get down here and get your knee as high on the arm as you can. Hands wide and turned out, hips up, and then you would just walk this foot forward like this and this foot back. Yeah, you can see that, right? Now here's of course, the preparation. Now you just lean forward, grip the ground, keep your ribs pulled in, and you can keep the front foot on the ground as you use your back, outer hip, and obliques. Maybe the front foot lifts. That time my front foot lifted as a result of my back leg. Okay. Questions so far? Also, you could raise the blocks. Makes it easier too. Tell me where you're at. There are multiple ways to come into this, by the way. I don't want to give too many. I feel like focus on one or two, but also, you know, some people find one thing easier than the other, so there's that. I'll wait for your questions to come in. I know they are a little delayed from where I am in the video. Okay, so Kristen, works, first time, thank you, awesome. Without momentum, hips up, leaning forward helps. Okay, helps a lot, great, glad to hear it. Is it weird that the side of my leg that's pressing into the arm hurts? No, it's like a really deep tissue massage, Simona. So that's your like IT band. I'll go over here. So that's your IT band that's pressing into your arm, and it's the weight of your body on the arm. That's like if somebody gave you a massage and just put all their weight in, that's what you're kind of doing to yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. It might cause a bruise. If you feel any like deep burning sensation, then that's a problem, of course. You might be tearing something or whatever, but if it's just this dull, intense pressure, that's what, you know, if you put yourself on a foam roller or something and roll out your IT band, that's what it's going to feel like. Ultimately, it's just an indication that your quads are usually tight and your IT band is trying to hold on to that. Also, your buttock muscle, your glute muscle's also tight probably too. That's one of the muscles that attaches to the IT band. All right, so let's see. What's painful is my leg digging into my arm. So two of you have got that experience. Yeah, unfortunately that part really, there's not really a way around it other than to stretch your quads and stretch your buttocks and get a massage, you know, or massage your own leg. Molly, thank you. For me, it's easier without momentum. Cool. Coming from walking the leg out, easier to straighten the legs than preparatory positions. Cool, I'm glad to hear that. Really like using blocks. I'm practicing just de-weighting the back foot from the block at this point. That's great, yeah, cool. And one thing we do, you know, in person when I'm teaching this is, for those that don't mind having support from somebody else, is you can have somebody hold your back leg. The one danger zone of that is it might be easy for you to dip forward, and if they've got your leg, you can't come down. Okay, so you have to have couch cushions in front of your chest and face. It's just FYI. Any advice for coming out of the posture? Yeah, so Patrick, I usually come to side crow to come out, but I think that's the easiest method. I'll show you that in a second. Yeah, I can do it on my right side, but have issues on my other because my left wrist is there. Anything you can do with less pressure on the wrist? So your left wrist is, so first of all, Johanna, check your elbow and make sure it's not winging out. If you feel the pressure on the outer left wrist, it's because your elbow is winging out or it's sagging out to the side. And we want to make sure that the forearm is vertical side to side, okay? And if the arm is rotating at all, that also can put pressure on the wrist here. So turning the hands out, gripping the fingers, and spinning the eye of the elbow, spinning the elbow back, okay? That's gonna help the wrist. And then of course, gripping the fingers over time. Now, once you're in this pose, you could also shift the weight to the other side, and I'll show that while I'm showing what Patrick would like to get out of the pose, okay? So Simona, yeah, I guess it's just all that weird pressing down. I'm pretty flexible, I'd say, so I don't think it's tightness you mentioned in my case personally. Thank you, we'll keep on. So flexibility, Simona, actually doesn't have anything to do with tension in your body. So for example, like my quads are super tight today, but you can see that that's not going to really affect my flexibility. I could still bring the foot in, but there's a tension. So there's a certain elasticity that all of us have where we consider that to be flexibility, but that doesn't mean that the muscles aren't, the muscles can't be tight for us. So just, and that varies day to day. And so one of the things that the IT band does is when the quads quickly engage as you walk or you run or whatever, the IT band holds the quads in so it can get tight there, and also the muscles underneath the quads are underneath the IT band. The other thing, of course, is the IT band is a connection point to the gluteus maximus, so the gluteus maximus could be holding some tension as well. So either way, it's just, you know, you've got some something going on with the buttocks or the quads, but it's quite normal that intense pressure on a muscle is hard to take for many people. Over time, those muscles can be loosened up and then that sensation releases. So I want to just go over, let's see, I cannot do it on my left side. Feel almost impossible to lift my back leg. So that's, Michaela, probably more likely that it means that you're not leaning forward enough. Lean forward on that side more. The side that tends to be weaker is the side that we tend to not lean into, so grip the ground more. I'm gonna show Patrick's, also gonna show the wrist, so let's check out this again. So let's do momentum, okay, so. See how I wrap the elbow in to get there? Okay, now, see my body's leaning forward. Show you on that other angle here. So if I get here, elbow in, forward, forward. Patrick, right in the side crow. Right in the side crow. And you can go back and forth, those of you that want to have a little play time like this. Lean forward, side crow, Koundenyasana, side crow. Transition, side crow, hips up, Koundenyasana, side crow, right back. If you are doing the transition from side crow to Koundenyasana, watch the initial step here. This foot, the top foot, lifts up. That's internal rotation. And why that's important is when you internally rotate, your outer hip will engage. I didn't get to Johanna's question. One second.
Sure, no problem, Simona. Michaela. Tara, let's see. Okay, I'm glad to hear that some of you have found a lot of access in walking in the non-momentum. That's awesome. Okay, so Johanna, let's just look at the wrist, the forearm. One thing you could do is like, videoing yourself is really great, so you can see your wrist from like different angles. But I'm gonna put the block outside my wrist as tight as possible to the wrist and make sure that I don't let my elbow hit that block. I just did, so make sure. Or let's do non-momentum for everybody that's not doing it. Okay. So you see I'm squeezing the elbow in, not out. Ow, that hurts. So not out. Otherwise, once you get the pressure in the outer wrist, it sucks. Cool, thanks for the tip. I was really not leaning forward enough on my left side. That's amazing. Usually that's the answer. So you may have seen my like promos for this, my promotion for all, this arm balance thing was a lot about lean, resist, push. Leaning is step one, learning how to move your weight forward. And most often than not, we compensate by trying to overactivate other muscles when we're not leaning enough. So that's always, the first thing I go back to. If I'm not getting something on something, it's body weight shifting first, more often than not. Then muscle activation next. Okay, that's, the methodology. All right, we're far over time. I apologize for that. I just totally lost track of time. I was so into answering your questions, but so let's do just a little pec stretch at the wall. Ooze. Other side. All right. Come on to your back. Let's do a little. If you have other poses you want to do, you're welcome to it. Those of you that want to do a little neck stretch, I like to do a neck stretch at the end, just twisting, just a gentle twist of the head one direction. I find that rotation of the neck feels like a nice release of the neck muscles. Those neck muscles that tend to overwork when you're doing core exercises, like the ones on the back. You could, of course, do a front neck stretch by doing a back bend in your neck, but I find that the twisting seems to be a little more effective, less aggressive sometimes. So I've been enjoying that as one of my cool downs. You could also do a spinal twist. Some of you will feel good with that instead. Whatever cool down you'd like. And then when you're ready, let's make our way into Shavasana.
us back to your breath. Waken the fingers and toes. Stretch your arms. Roll to your side. Come up to a seated position. Sorry about that. Let's place the hands to the heart. Take a moment in honor of this community, everyone that's practicing live and anybody that's practicing afterwards as well, that's joining into this experience of connecting to our physical body and relearning, undoing, learning for the first time, developing an understanding of this physical form. This is just such a magnificent adventure, and may we have gratitude for each other to be able to be in this relationship with both ourselves and the collective community. And also gratitude for all those that came before that have supported us through this lineage of yoga by passing it down and giving us the tools. We bow in. Namaste. Sorry about the black screen there, everybody. I hit the fade to black button accidentally. But we're back. Yes, I'm tired as well. Your cues are so helpful. Thanks so much, Matt. Love this immersion. I'm so glad. Thanks, Marissa. Yeah, the screen went black, screen went black, screen went black. Sorry, everybody. Black screen. Love the extra playtime in the workshop. Feel this immersion. Thank you, Tara. Appreciate that. Hey, Kara. Thank you. All right, everybody. It's been an honor to share with you today. Thanks for all tuning in. Have a beautiful rest of your day and be well. See you soon. Screen's going black again.